The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Morning and welcome to Autism Live. I am Shannon Penrod. Thrilled to be here. I hope you guys all had great Thanksgiving holidays and that you got an opportunity to take a little bit of a break. I know that sometimes having a break is harder than not having a break. And later on the show, we're going to talk about that a little bit. Because a lot of people wrote into us this week and said, holidays are harder because we have fewer services. So we're going to talk about that later on. But at the start of the show, we've got coming up in just a minute, one of my favorite people, one of my favorite guests, Chelsea Darnell, is going to be with us talking about an amazing performance that they're a part of coming up next week. So we're going to give you the 411 about all that. Before we do that, though, I just want to remind everybody that we're live right now on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. I'm sitting here. You guys can be writing in questions right now on any of those platforms. We love it when you guys interact. It's really our favorite thing here at the Autism Network. So if you're on any of those platforms watching live, feel free. And our fabulous Chris Desmond is showing you on the screen some of the ways that you can connect, that you can write in your questions right now and we can be talking in real time. Now, the reality is we know that the lion's share of you are not watching live, that you're going to catch this later on in podcast, either on YouTube or on any of the platforms that we are a free download, all the podcasting platforms that Chris is showing you right now on the screen. I do want to encourage you, if you're somebody who regularly listens to us in podcasts, first of all, we really appreciate you and we love that you guys are loving the free download. You do realize, of course, that you're going to get ads when you do the free download because that's how we make it free for you. And we hope that you appreciate that and embrace that. Obviously, if you don't want the ads, we have a way for you for a very small fee. For $5 a month, you can subscribe. You can go to glow.fm/autism-live. And for $5 a month, you get every new show that we do. It just shows up in your inbox and it's free of ads and you can listen to them at your leisure and they will be free of ads for $5 a month. So that's a fabulous thing. But I also want to encourage you, if you're listening in podcast, every once in a while we have shows where it's fun to see what's happening in the studio. And so you can head over to both of our YouTube channels that we have. We have a YouTube channel that's just Autism Live. And then we have a YouTube channel that is just Ask Dr. Doreen. And you can check that out and subscribe to both of those if you ever want to see what we're doing. I think especially, and we're going to talk toys later on because, we just did the Festival of Toys. I think it's funny to listen to the podcast when you aren't able to see the toys, but it's much more fun to see the toys in action and see, because I play with the toys and sometimes I get distracted while I'm playing with the toys and forget that we're doing a live thing and I'm just playing with a toy. What can I say? I am a toy connoisseur. I love toys and I get caught up. But anyway, check all of that out. I also want to say that I want to apologize because we were slated to do a show yesterday with Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh for Ask Dr. Doreen. And somebody wrote in and said, why aren't you doing as many Ask Dr. Doreens? And it's a very simple answer. She's a very busy lady and we only have her when we have her. And when something pressing happens in the field of autism, we have to give way and let her go do those other things. So she misses you too, and we miss doing shows, and hopefully things are not calming down in the autism community. Maybe we'll have time to talk about that later as well. In any case, I don't want to belabor, but I hope that you know how much we appreciate you. You were on our list of things we were grateful for at our Thanksgiving tables. So, but we've got this amazing guest that is joining us this morning. We're just skipping the jargon of the day. And we're going to welcome Chelsea Darnell, who is an amazing young woman who is doing all kinds of things. Very notably, she just was a recipient of the Lending Your Voice Award at the All Ghouls Gala this year. And what a deserving recipient, because she is an amazing young woman who is moving and shaking. Let's say that. She's somebody who's a force of change in the world. And I'm going to get emotional because I've known her for many years, but not really that long if you think about it. But because she's very young, and we'll talk with her about some of the things that she's doing. But I always start with the fact that she's an amazing performer. This young woman can sing, and she's got an amazing voice and is a voice actor and truly wonderful. And she also helps to teach and support those things at Spec Labs. But the first time I ever saw her, she was on stage singing, and I went, "Who's that?" She just has this smoky jazz voice, and she was singing a jazz song, and I just thought it was amazing. And I was like, "Who's that?" And but then during the pandemic, she is somebody who's very active, and we'll talk about her role at the Ed Asner Center. But she started something during the pandemic that I just thought was before then, but it was one of the most ingenious things that's still going, Movie Chat, where it's a social experience for adults where they watch a film and then get together and discuss it, often with people in the film. It was and is something that is so remarkable, and it continues, just amazing. But that's half of what she did a couple of years ago. Now, we're going to have her talk about what her role is on Love on the Spectrum, and talk about all of that. But she's got a performance that's coming up next week, which is really why we have her here, and we want to talk about that. So I don't know. I could wax poetic about this young woman forever, but let's just get her in here and have her really talk about the things. There she is, Chelsea Darnell.
Hi.
It's so great to have you here. I would like it if you just come every day, if you can arrange it. So let's start with the award, because I was so ecstatic for you to get this Lending Your Voice award, because you have lent your voice in so many different ways to the autism community and have really been a voice of change and a voice of reason. What was it like? What was the most fun part of getting that award that night for you?
I think the funnest part was actually presenting it in a costume, because it was a Halloween party.
Yeah.
For anybody who was not there, I was Flo the Progressive Girl, so that was really fun. It was also really cool to get to accept the award in front of my colleagues at Love on the Spectrum. That was really cool.
And then, in fact, you then got the award, and then you turned around and presented the award to Love on the Spectrum, because they were the other recipient. And yes, they are your colleagues. Tell everybody what your role is at Love on the Spectrum.
So I've been a casting associate producer for the show since its second season. And basically my job is sort of like, I help like the recruitment process, try and get dates for people, all of that stuff.
And that's just got to be one of the most interesting jobs on the planet. I know when I watch the show, I literally sit there and think, oh my gosh, where do they find these people? And, because it's very, anytime you're watching a dating show, it's very interesting when two people meet, because people are so individual. And I think it's just that much more interesting on Love on the Spectrum. So you're probably not allowed to tell us some of the techniques that you do, but can you tell us where you find people?
I can tell you the techniques. I just can't tell you like spoilers and stuff.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
but where do you look?
Tell you.
Okay.
But I can tell you how I do it. Basically what I do is, I'll do like a case study. Like, let's say there's some guy and they're from, I don't know, Boston, Massachusetts. And I look for all the nonprofits near that guy in Boston, reach out to those nonprofits, and hope that they provide people for us, is usually how I do it.
That's clever. That's very, very smart. Well, it's fascinating, and you're doing a wonderful job, because we're all glued to that television, whenever it comes out, man, I'm like, clear the decks for a couple of days because I can only binge watch. I'm not capable of watching it slowly. I have to know what happens.
Yeah.
But do you feel a little responsible for some of the success stories because you kind of bird dogged and found the people? Do you feel a little bit like a Yenta?
More or less. Well, what's funny is that a lot of stuff that has happened on the show that was through my research kind of happened by accident.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, Madison was someone that came out of when I was working on the second season and we were looking for people for James. I had reached out to this nonprofit and they gave us Madison. And at the time, she was still living in Massachusetts. And they were interviewing her, and she ended up not being a date for James that year, obviously. But they really liked her, and she ended up being a main cast member in season 3 when they found out she was living in Florida. So that happens a lot where searches happen and it's almost by accident. But there were some people. So the girl that Tanner went on a date with in season 3, her name's Callie.
Uh-huh.
Callie is someone I knew about. I had recommended her to my colleagues because I knew her from this video series called SBSK, which is actually how Tanner was discovered. And I was recommending this girl to them, and I think she was like she was taken in season 2, but then they reconnected with her season 3, found out she was single, and that's how that happened. So a lot of it happens almost by accident or circumstance, if that makes any sense.
I don't believe in accidents. I believe it's all meant to be, and that you planted the seeds and that it all came to fruition.
I try, but thank you.
I love that. So we wanted to talk with you today because there's so many things that you have going on, but you got this big concert that is happening a week from today, happening in Los Angeles. Tell us a little bit about what this concert is and what your role is, and there's so much to talk about.
Great question. So I will give the heads up that this show that I'm about to tell you about is sold out, which is great. But it's called I'm in a group. It's called Epic Players, and the idea of Epic Players, it's a neuro-inclusive group that emphasizes skills in the theatrical and performing arts. And on December 10th, we're having a Disney-themed cabaret where we'll all be singing songs from Disney. So very autistic coded, if you will. It'll be at the Barnsdall Art Park in Hollywood at 7. And I will be one of the performers in that show.
That's amazing. And I understand that you guys have some pretty heavy hitter guests that are going to be performing with you.
That is correct. Hopefully it stays that way, but the event is slated to have Kristen Bell and Josh Gad as guest performers.
Okay, how on earth did that happen?
I'll tell you. So, in order to explain why they were able to get them, I have to explain the Epic Players itself. So, there's 2 chapters of Epic Players. There's the one in LA and the one in New York. The LA one only started maybe like last year, but the New York one is the original, and that's been around for at least 10 years. And so the guy who wrote the music for Frozen, which Kristen Bell and Josh Gad were both in, his name's Robert Lopez. He saw the Epic shows in New York and really liked them, and they already had him as a contact, and they were able to get Kristen Bell and Josh Gad through him.
That is fascinating. I mean, that's a huge get. But, I've been hearing, this will be my first time coming, but I've been hearing all this wonderful stuff about Epic Players and just how great the work is. And then I found out that you were in it, and there are a couple other people that I know that are in it. And I was like, oh, this makes great sense. How did you hear about Epic Players?
I had heard about it just like almost through word of mouth, basically. But then my friend Devin Morrissey, who was in Epic Players, he invited me to one of the cabarets, and that made me want to join it. Okay.
And was it an audition process? Can you just join? What's that like?
So this is what's interesting. So when I auditioned, it was online, but for most people but I know people that auditioned in person. But basically, what's really cool is if you audition and get in, the classes that they offer are completely free.
Wow.
So I thought that would be known. So, but you have to audition first.
Well, and I don't know if you heard me say at the beginning that the first time I ever saw you or became aware of you, you were singing. And I remember going, "Oh my gosh, who is that?" Because you are on the petite side. I'm a big, hulking person, and you're on the petite side, but you have this ginormous voice, and I was like, my goodness, who is that? And so I'm thrilled that you're still singing because you're so busy doing so many other things that I haven't heard about you singing in a while. So this really makes me thrilled, Chelsea, that you're singing.
Thank you so much.
And so so you're not giving up on the singing while you're doing all these other things.
No. Well, it's funny because singing for me has always been like a hobby, like a passionate hobby. Like I never sought out for it as I do it for fun. You know what I mean? So for me it's like a fun thing to do. I just haven't necessarily always found a venue to be able to do it or to do that hobby, and now I have a venue to do it that's more like consistent and stuff like that. So that's really cool.
That is very cool. Well, I can't wait to see this performance. And again, it's called Once Upon a Cabaret. And you guys are performing on December 10th at the Barnesdale Gallery Theater. But unfortunately, we had a link for the tickets, but it's too late. It's sold out. You can't get in. But that's a lesson for next time you hear about the Epic Players doing something. You guys should get your tickets right away. However, yesterday was Giving Tuesday, and Epic Players will still take donations.
They could take all the donations they can get. Please donate if you have the means to donate. Even if you can't make a show or you missed Giving Tuesday, by all means donate. They need it because they want to make sure that they can have a main stage production. So make sure to donate if you want to and can.
There we go. And that's something they'd like to do as a main stage production. Is that in the works?
That is planned for next semester. I might personally, for me, I like singing. I like acting, but I like improv acting the most. So I may prioritize cabaret for me, but a lot of people are going to be doing the main stage play, and they want to make sure they have, costumes and sets and stuff. So if they will always take a donation.
Very good. Wonderful. And excuse me, now I have a cough, so I apologize. I do want to give the programming note that Chris and I will be there for the red carpet for this performance on Wednesday. Excuse me. I beg your pardon. So we should have some interesting footage to show you guys next week from being on the red carpet. So we look forward to seeing you there. I wanted to, you got a couple of other things going on. Talk to them a little bit while I cough. And I'm going to have him mute me for a second. But talk a little bit about your role at the Ed Asner Family Center. And then you guys have something really cool coming up.
Oh, great question. So the position I have at the Ed Asner Center, I'm what's called the social director. It's a position that I began 5 years ago as a volunteer position. And of course, as Shannon mentioned, one of the things I did with that position was start Movie Chat, which is now run by my dear friend Hannah. As my life has continued to get busy, she runs it now. And I've passed on the mantle to her for Movie Chat. But I've done several other things with the Ed Asner Center lately. One thing is I recently started co-teaching their improv class, which has been amazing. And the other thing is on December 14th, there will be another annual reading of It's a Wonderful Life. I'll be in it. Several of the Love on the Spectrum cast members will be in it. Tanner, Madison, Abby, Danny, I'm trying to remember the others. I think Sabode's in it as well. But then it'll also have Ben Stiller and Christine Taylor as George and Mary. So that'll be really cool. Oh yeah, who else? We have, I think Martin Short's going to be in it as well. I'm trying to remember who else. Robert Smigel is going to be in it, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say, but his fake puppet dog Triumph will be making an appearance as well. So that'll be fun.
I love Triumph. I'm a huge fan. But you're burying the headline. You are also in the cast.
Yes, I am.
And you have been in the cast have you been in all of the casts or just the last 3?
I have done it every single year. Not always the same role, but I've done it every year.
Well, a lot of times, I don't know if it's been every year, you have my favorite line in the whole script. Do you know what that is?
No.
The one, it's at the end of the movie, so it's at the end of the script, when the one woman is giving the donation and she said, I was saving this money for a divorce in case I ever get a husband, something along. That's my favorite line in the movie. That's my favorite line in the script.
Kidding. I believe I am playing. I believe they are having me play that role again. Yes.
It's my favorite line. And I was so excited to see, that you had that line. I was like, oh, I'm chartreuse with envy because it's my favorite line in the whole thing. So just no pressure. But when you say it, that it's my favorite line. It's every year the cast is wildly different. And every year I think we all sit and say, gosh, I don't know how they're going to top that. But I think they have this year.
I think the fact that there's a bunch of people from Love on the Spectrum, I think that really sells it because I almost feel like we're in this really interesting time period. This is going to sound kind of weird. I was talking to somebody the other day. I feel like, I was talking about with my dad. I'm like, about like people are going to be excited for. And he's like, people as much as there's these big people in it, people are going to be most excited to see the Love on the Spectrum people.
Yeah.
And I think we're in a time when people almost get more excited about normal everyday people than they do celebrities, which I think is a very interesting and kind of cool time to be in, if that makes any sense.
I agree with you, but I think there's something extra about it too, and it's part of the reason why Love on the Spectrum got a Lending Your Voice award in addition to you this year, is that, and I said this to anybody who would listen, it changed everything. When you think about what influences people, certainly television is the great medium. I think both of your parents would agree with me there. It's the medium that has the biggest ability to change.
Oh yeah, 1,000,000%. And I find that a lot of people I know that are not on the spectrum, a lot of the stuff that they've learned and have been enlightened about was through Love on the Spectrum.
Absolutely.
So I'm very proud to be a part of a show that really gives, and maybe I'm biased because I work for it, but I think it is probably one of the best shows about autism.
Yeah.
Because it shows real people on the spectrum, but also people that you can relate to.
Yes.
Even if you're not on the spectrum, that's, I think, what is the magic of Love on the Spectrum.
Absolutely.
If that makes any sense.
Absolutely. And I'll add to that anytime you have the ability to fall in love with someone and start to root for them, it changes your DNA and how you look at things. And the fact that it's not just one person that we fall in love with on that show and start to root for, it's the whole cast.
Yeah.
That we find ourselves wanting them to find love and pulling for them to find love. And when you get the world to start pulling for a group of people on the spectrum to find love, then of course they pull for them in life.
Yeah, and I find that a lot of people, like every single person I know has watched the show at least once, and I think it's because it came out at the right time.
Yeah.
I think it's a really great form of people to like, because a lot of media is so just fettered with like nonsense and divisiveness.
Yes.
And I think Love on the Spectrum is a wonderful reprieve from that. And I'm very
agree.
proud to be a part of something that can do that.
I agree. And you should be proud. My goodness. It really, it's funny that when they started having a Muppet on Sesame Street that was on the spectrum, and Julia, and I remember when everybody said, this is great now, but they said, imagine in 30 years from now when the HR director grew up with Julia, they're going to interview people differently than they're interviewing them today. And I thought, wow, isn't that the truth? And I feel like Love on the Spectrum just jump-started all of that, and we didn't have to wait 30 years. Yeah. That people care, and that autism is looked at differently. I think it's the best medicine in the world, that show. So congratulations, and we're all in awe of the work that you guys are doing. It's absolutely wonderful. Now, you mentioned, so we've talked about Ed Asner Family Center and the It's a Wonderful Life. I believe the tickets are still available, and I know that we're going to have Matt on the show next week. But tickets are still available. You guys can watch it in your living room, which is my favorite thing. We turn on our electric fireplace, and I put on fuzzy slippers, and we sit and watch it as a family. It's a really fun thing. It's a very small ticket price to watch with the whole family. So go to their website, you guys, and get your tickets, because that helps support all the programs that you're a part of and making such a difference, Chelsea.
Thank you.
And then... Yeah. Go ahead.
Could I tell them what they'd be supporting?
Yes, please.
So if you buy a ticket for It's a Wonderful Life, which I believe is on was it Broadway.net? I can't remember what the streaming site is called.
But you can get the tickets through the TEAFC.
All of that money is going to go to, strengthening their day program, which is called the Academy. Probably more funds for their job training program, probably added stuff for their facilities and whatnot. Hopefully I got that right.
I think you did. And it's a wonderful place. I love when somebody comes to me and they say, I'm looking for places for my teen or adult child, and I want them to be a part of a social experience where they can feel like they're home and not judged. And I always, say, where do you live? And if they live anywhere within the Los Angeles area, I always breathe a sigh, because I know I can send them to you guys, and that they're going to find a home, and not only for that individual, but for the family to go and feel like it's a place where they're always welcome. It's a really special place. And I know you have a lot to do with that. So thank you. But you also mentioned Spec Labs, because you do a lot with them. Talk about what they've got going on and what you're doing there right now.
So we had a Halloween show back in October, but I help with their film and sketch classes. They're a very great organization to any. You donate goes. They actually just got their own building in Burbank now. So anything you donate, it will be able to keep that going, keep their arts programs going, give them more funding to make more movies and more elaborate shows. Hopefully that covers the bases, I think.
So wonderful. Look at all these amazing things that you're a part of. I wonder if that's just part of the reason why you got that award. And also, I think since the last time you came on, have you gotten 1 or 2 degrees since the last time you came on? What are your official degrees now, ma'am?
So I got in 2022, I graduated summa cum laude from Cal Lutheran with a bachelor's in communication, and with the communications major and a sociology minor. And then in 2024, I graduated with a master's degree from Arizona State University in film and media studies.
My goodness. So what's on your horizon? What's next for you? Is that a tough question?
It is, because I'm just seeing where it goes. Just, more Ed Asner, more Spec Labs, more Epic. That's kind of just what's on my immediate mind. Yeah. And of course, more Love on the Spectrum.
Yes.
Assuming that there will be, most likely that there'll be another season.
Yes. Well, we certainly hope so. Fingers crossed, because we all want to meet and see where people are. Obviously, those of us who know people on the cast get little hints in real life. But there are people on the East Coast that I don't know what's happening, and I want to follow up on those. And I also like it whenever every season they pepper in one or two new people to follow.
Yeah. You're actually going to be seeing, I think there's going to be a lot more new people
Okay.
when I'm not allowed to say very much.
Yes, we don't want you to break any rules.
I anticipate seeing a ton of new people.
Okay.
There's going to be a lot of fresh faces.
So, okay, I didn't ask if I could ask this, so you can say no comment. But would you ever consider being on the show?
Absolutely not. And that actually leads me to how I got the job in the first place.
Okay.
So when Sean and Kian, Kian created the show. Sean's one of the main producers. They came to the Ed Asner Center, met me, and they were intending to interview me to be on the show. And I said, I don't really want my personal life on the show.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't really comfortable. But I said I'd work for you guys. And, Nava and Maddie work at the Ed Asner, who are the founders of the Ed Asner Center. They fought for me. And I ended up getting the casting associate job.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And I totally respect not wanting to air your personal life. I don't think it's for everybody.
Plus I'm taken so irrelevant.
There we go. Then not even a possibility. Chelsea, you are an amazing young woman. And you're so in the middle of so many good things. I don't think it's at all a coincidence. And I just can't wait to see what all you do. I can't wait to see you in this performance on Wednesday. We'll say again, it's Epic Players, and it's going to be great. Unfortunately, if you didn't get tickets, you can't come. But you'll want to come to the next one, and we'll make sure that Chelsea lets us know when that is. But I can't wait to see you sing, and then I can't wait to see you in the It's a Wonderful Life. Next week is a big week for you.
Yeah.
That's a lot. But hopefully, as a performer, you're just taking really good care of yourself, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay. But I so appreciate you and all the things that you're doing. And you are welcome to come back anytime you want.
Thank you so much.
I just adore you. And can't wait to see you on Wednesday night.
Yay, thank you so much.
All right. Say hi to your parents for me.
Will do.
Okay. Bye-bye for now.
Bye. Bye, Shannon.
Bye-bye. What a treat. I mean, my goodness, what a treat. Hey, I'm saying hello to Helen. Helen, we're so thrilled that you're watching. We're going to take a short break and show you a little bit about the toy guide in case you haven't been looking at the toy guide yet. It's chock full of ideas for everybody on your list. So take a look at this and then we'll come back and chat some more.
The wait is over. All month from now until the new year, join Shannon for Autism-Live's 2025 Toy Guide. Shannon will break down the award-winning toys in multiple age groups, where to buy them, and how your purchase can help the Autism Network continue to provide information and inspiration to families this holiday season.
I just love watching those precious babies play with the toys. And I just want to say a little bit about our toy guide. For those of you who are maybe unfamiliar with the toy guide, it's available now. All you have to do is go to autismnetwork.com. There is a tab at the top that says toy guide, and you can just click on that and it'll take you to this year's toy guide. But you can also look at past years. I think we have a total of 3 years that you can look at if because they're all toys that are still available. But I really love it when you look at this year's toy guide. But when you get to the 2025 toy guide, it's divided into 6 separate categories. And it is by age, although, because you have to organize it somehow, right? But I always say to people, don't pay that much attention to the age thing. I think it's a good place to start. So, if you think about, okay, I need to find a gift for... and think about which one of the 6 categories would best describe them chronologically. We're going to start there. So there's baby toddler, there's preschool, there's school age, then there's tween teen, then there's adult, and then there is a caregiver section. So you pick, okay, which one would I start with? And then I encourage you to look at the 2. Once you look there, and if you didn't find the gift that really sparked your interest for that person. Then look at the two closest to that age range. So let's say that you want to get a gift for a caregiver. You start with a caregiver, and if you don't find it there, then go look at the adult category. And if you don't find it there, go look at the tween teen. Because I can think of a toy that we put in the caregiver category that I could have put in the preschool category. But because sometimes there's something that's good for a caregiver that you could also hand to a 5-year-old and be like, have a good time with this. And they would, and it would be safe. So just keep that in mind. When it's really critical, in the early categories, like for baby toddler, we have to be very careful about choking hazards, right? And so it clearly says what the age range is on it. But let's be honest, sometimes you have a 7-year-old who likes to put things in their mouth. And so you're still having to be careful about choking hazards, in which case I would tell you, go look in the baby toddler category. But there's some fun toys in the baby toddler category that I would play with. Just saying, right? So definitely, I think it's fun to just take a look at everything. And then on the unlikely event that you don't find anything in this year's toy guide, then you can go look at 2024 and 2023, and we may even have 2022 up there. But I think it's just fun to see the toys. And what you'll see as you scroll through each category, I think we're up to 22 awards within each category. Like there's a best sensory toy and a best STEM toy for that age category. There's, what was the parent recommended toy? Which one were recommended by therapists? Which one is best for building speech? There's all these different categories. We added 2 new ones this year, and one of them is Dr. Doreen's favorite, and one of them is Shannon's favorite. So I think that's sort of fun to check out too. There's one that's a boredom buster, and those are fun ones that I like to keep on hand. You know how there's a rainy day and all of a sudden, or something gets canceled, or, and you're like, oh, I got to entertain these kids. I got to do something, right? These are things that I love to just have around. That's really every day here, because we don't really, since we moved, we kind of have changed our format, and we don't really have people in the studio anymore, but sometimes we have people visit. And when they visit, sometimes they will bring their kiddos, and I find myself just on a Tuesday with a kiddo that I suddenly, need to entertain for a few minutes because somebody wants to talk to Dr. Grampiche or whatever. So I keep a couple of those toys on hand that are the boredom busters, because they're the kinds of toys you can get anybody to play within a very short time period. They pack up easy, not going to be a huge craft mess all over everything. So I have fondness for, it's sort of like Sophie's Choice. Like is there an award that I like more than any other? I don't think so, but there are some that I have a special affinity for. There's one category that is just oldie but goodies. That's always a fun one for me. Like this year, I don't remember which age category it's in, but there's a Slinky. Do you remember Slinkies? Slinkies were the best. So it's got an award. Absolutely love that. So check them out. Also, it shows you a picture of the toy, shows you what award it got. There's a brief description of the toy, and then a brief description of why our judges loved it or why we love it here at Autism Live. And then underneath that, for some of the videos, we did a demo of them. If the toy manufacturer sent us the toys, and toy manufacturers, if you're listening, you should send us toys. So you can look at the video and see me playing with the toy, which is often hilarious. But then for each of the toys, there is a link that you can purchase the toy. It's usually about this time. We usually let the toy manufacturers decide where they want them to buy it from. But then we have made an Amazon storefront, and within the week, I'm going to change all the codes so that if you click that, it'll go directly to the storefront. And then when you purchase it, we get, I don't know how many pennies we get, but it helps keep the lights on, my friends. So if you're ordering the toy, and if there's an opportunity to get it from our Amazon storefront, it helps keep the show going. So it's like win, 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 win. We're always looking for toys that ignite the imagination, set hearts on fire. I always think about, we were just talking about this the other day, that I always love to ask people, what's the best gift you've ever gotten? what was your favorite toy from childhood? What did that do for you? Why did you love it so much? I should do that all the time when I'm interviewing people, but just in life, that's my icebreaker that I ask people. And it's always fascinating, when you see, we were just talking about documentaries before, and when you see somebody who's a musician and they talk about the first guitar they ever got. I was just watching, I love David Letterman, and I was watching him interview Adam Sandler, and Adam Sandler was talking about this guitar that he was holding and the circumstances under which his dad got it for him. And it's just a very special thing. So I'm always like, how can we find that toy for our kiddos? And sometimes it leads to all kinds. Sometimes it leads to a career. Sometimes it leads to a lifelong passion. Sometimes it leads to discovering who they are, So I think that a toy is a magical and fabulous thing. And that's why I get so passionate about the toy guide. When we started the toy guide, it was really because one by one, first I brought on a toy that had helped my son learn the alphabet. And because somebody had said, my kid just is not getting the alphabet. And I brought in a Leapfrog DVD and said, this is how my son learned the alphabet. And here's what's so great about it. And everybody was sort of interested. They were like, oh, we'd like it if you review more toys. So I started reviewing more toys. People started sending us the toys. And then we were like, we should just put out a guide. Now, at the time that we did that, Toys R Us was still open. And Toys R Us had the differently abled guide that they did with Lecotech. And everybody was like, why are you trying to compete with them? And I said, we're not trying to compete, but I love what Toys R Us was doing and I loved what Lecotech was doing, but it wasn't autism specific. Some of the toys were great for our kids on the spectrum, and it was mostly kids. It didn't include the teens, it didn't include the adults, and it didn't include the caregivers. And so that's kind of how we started doing the toy guide. And then within 2 years of doing it, Toys R Us went out of business, and that differently able guide went poof. So I'm really proud. We've been doing it for over 10 years, and thrilled to be able to do it, and thrilled to really partner with some of the toy manufacturers, because I don't know if you guys know this. So they send us 2 toys in order for us to be able to demo them. And we always promise that we will give these away to folks on the spectrum. We now give them to centers too. But we've been giving all the toys away since we started doing it. And it's been such a delightful thing to be able to do that. Obviously, there's never enough toys to give absolutely everybody in the world. And, we used to do the Sensitive Santa, and we're not doing that anymore. We did the Sensitive Santa events for 10 years. And I'll tell you something, part of it is that my husband cannot, that's like too long of a thing to be Santa, but those were great years. And we gave away all the toys, and now we give them out at separate events. But it's a lovely thing. Everybody deserves to have something that ignites that passion in them. So toys are a fabulous thing. Okay. So, and Helen, did I say hello? I meant to say hello. I'm thrilled that you're here with us, Helen. And, we've got time. If anybody has a question, feel free to write in the question. But if not, I'd like to step into an arena to talk about some of the things that have been going on in the world, because I would like to remind all of us to have hope, that this is a season of hope. And one of the things that I say on a regular basis is that things can be as messed up as possible, but hope is the key to everything. And if you are feeling nervous or despondent or outrage at some of the things going on in the world, I want to remind you about hope. So balanced approach to this. I know that there were a lot of people really affected and still writing to us about the feelings that came up with the press conference that happened about Tylenol and leucovorin. And I want to remind you, if you have not watched the Ask Dr. Doreen when she talks specifically about the press release, I think it's the definitive guide to feeling better and having hope. She gives you the best scientific explanation about what the role Tylenol does, and why excuse me, why no one can be saying that Tylenol causes autism. So I encourage you to, I'm not even going to attempt, because she gave the definitive talk on that. And if you are feeling, oh my gosh, I've had so many parents reach out and say, I'm just devastated to think that I caused my child's autism by taking Tylenol. If you are having those feelings, go watch that video where she's going to talk about the fact that that is not what happened. That, Tylenol does create something that can long-term contribute, but so do a million other things, and contribute in a small way. And it's not just one thing. So make sure that you watch that. I also loved her talk about the leucovorin because I know, oh my goodness, I feel like so many people that I've talked to have just put their child on leucovorin. And I really want to urge everyone, please have caution. Yes, we have seen that in some kids that it is having a big impact and helping to get to speech. And I know that gets us all excited, but there is a test that you should be doing before you start giving leucovorin or mass doses of anything to your child. And you shouldn't be doing any of that without a prescription, without a doctor, because it can cause massive side effects. So there is a test, and it's called the FRAT test, F-R-A-T test. That is the test that you want to have done on your child. You can Google it, and there are people that are offering that testing. That's the testing that you want to do to see if your child is a good candidate for leucovorin, because it's possible that test will also tell you if leucovorin is the drug that will have, an impact, hopefully, with your child, or is there a different drug that would have the impact that what you're looking for? One that was not talked about during the press conference, but is very much there. So it is worthwhile to take the time and the energy and the expense to get that FRAT test so that you're actually doing what your child needs. And it is also possible that you will find that your child does not show signs of either of the issues that would be identified in the FRAT test, in which case the leucovorin will not help them, and this other drug will not help them either. So I really want to urge caution. Don't be giving your child a mega dose of something until you know for sure that it's something that their body actually needs. Okay. But then I also want to talk about, sometimes it's hard when people in your life don't get it, right? I was having a conversation with somebody last night, and they were saying, when your child gets diagnosed with autism, that slowly your life morphs and you find yourself spending more and more time with other families where they have kiddos with autism because they get it. And because sometimes the people that you're spending time with who don't get it will say something that they don't realize cuts you to the core, right? That is hurtful, that literally will suck the life out of you for the day. I think we've all experienced that. It's unfortunate, and it's why I love shows like Love on the Spectrum, because it helps raise awareness so people have an understanding, okay, so this person doesn't see the world the same way that I do, but their view of it is valid, and I would not want to deliberately ever hurt them, right? Isn't that a wonderful thing? And yet there are people who don't understand, who don't get it. And I'm talking specifically about the use of the R word. And we had the use of an R word last week, and what I heard from so many people was hurt and pain and loss of hope. And I want to remind you that there are a lot of people who just don't get it. And while I don't know, I'm older, so I can tell you, If you are younger and have not experienced this, 20 years ago, we were talking about the fact that, my goodness, if there were more legislators who understood and got it, that we would not be having the problems that we were having to get insurance coverage for autism. We would not have the problem, getting more funding for schools and other programs and social programs. And of course, because the way life is, little by little, we have had more legislators who get it. And we've seen those legislators clap back on the use of the R word. And while, do I wish that none of it had happened? Of course, because it's hurtful. And it kind of takes the wind out of our sails where we feel like, if people in roles of power can use these terms, then these terms, it's going to be more socially acceptable. But I want to remind you of the flip, that other people have spoken up and said, hey, that we have, in Massachusetts, they're trying to pass the law for archaic language to say these words are no longer acceptable because we've progressed past that. It raises awareness. Okay, we're not there. But I want to remind you to have hope that I think my grandmother used to tell me this, and I'm seeing this at this age, things go up and things go down. But we want to look at what the general trend is, and there are more people that get it than ever. That, we got somebody using the R word inappropriately. I mean, there isn't an appropriate use of it. And I'm sorry, that's a level of ignorance. That's a level of not getting it that I would hope we would be past. Okay, but there are things like Love on the Spectrum that are countering that for people who would otherwise have been ignorant, right? And there are more people in power that are speaking up and saying, excuse me, that's not right. That's not right. We're not going to accept that. So have hope. It hurts feelings. I'm right there with you. Kind of takes the wind out of the sails and you go, oh, okay. Where's all the progress that we worked so hard for? But it's not over. You know what they say? It's not over till the fat lady sings, and I have not sung yet. So it's not over. Have hope. Know that there are families, even without children on the spectrum, that get it. And they're fighting for our kids. They're fighting for the dignity and the respect and the support that these individuals deserve. So we take a deep breath and we move forward, right? I also want to say that it is important that we not be silent ourselves, that it's more important than ever that we are talking to all of our elected officials and letting them know what's acceptable for us and what is not acceptable for us. Yeah? On every level. Whatever your personal, I like to keep it apolitical here because autism does not come in a box with a label that is, all things. It's not a one size fits all. And I want to embrace everybody in our community. But if you are not happy with your elected officials or any elected officials, you have a voice. You have a voice you can use and say, this is what I'm looking for. Many years ago, my son and I were on a plane, and we like to pick what we're going to watch on a plane. And did you ever watch the series Adam Ruins Everything? I don't know what Adam's last name is. Forgive me. My son would be so disappointed in me. But Adam Ruins Everything was a thing that was on the internet, and it was this young comedian, and he would pick a topic for the week, like Christmas, and then he would give you the whole backstory of whatever that thing was, to the point where you would go, oh, now it's ruined for me, right? Whatever it was. And often he would ruin it for you. It would be some wonderful thing like, why do we eat bread? and bread is so good, and he would take you through the history of it and realize that the backstory of bread is just horrible and we should all be boycotting. I'm making that up, but it would be like that level of stuff, and that's why the show was called Adam Ruins Everything. Well, after Obama left office, he thought that Adam does such a great job of doing investigative journalism that the Obamas have a production company, and so they paid Adam, and it was all open that they said, go do a hit piece on government and don't leave us out of it, like take us to task. And it's this 6-8 piece series where they look at different elements of government and just Adam ruins everything and talks about this is why. I'll tell you something. There's an episode on the weather I learned things about what our government does to let us know about weather that I did not know. Excuse me, it was fascinating. But I think it was the last episode, he takes on local government. And one of the things that he showed clearly was that if you get involved in your local government, if you just know who your state assembly person is and you have a relationship where you can write them something or go to your local government, your city council meetings, that's where a lot of stuff happens. That's where a lot of decisions get made. And if one city does something and it works, then other cities adopt it. And that a lot of what's happening is right in your neighborhood. So I'm not perfect about this, but whenever I get an opportunity to talk to any of my local people, I try to do that so that we can put forth agendas that are important to us and our community. Our kids, and if we say that we want to be good allies, if we say that we want to be good accomplices, then part of that is using our voices to put forth agendas that help that community. So I offer that up to you. Have hope. Have hope. There's every reason to have hope. But you got to speak up and you got to be involved. And of course you have to vote. But don't let it get you down. I know I have to say that to myself because it's hard. It's really, really hard. Let's talk a little bit about what we have coming up. And I promise I'm going to take 2 minutes to talk about, because it was what we were supposed to talk about yesterday with Dr. Doreen, that when a lot of you have written and said, I was looking forward to the holiday, but I had less services. And how do you get through this? And listen, I remember very distinctly, because I love the holidays. And I'm like, the holidays, and you get to take a little break, and it changes up everything, and it's wonderful. And then when my child, going to school is a slog, going, to speech and OT and, getting them to ABA therapy, it's all a slog. And I would go, we're going to have a break. And then I would realize, oh, no. What we're having a break from is all of the support that's making all of the progress happen. And it felt like death. I remember that very distinctly. And you guys wrote in droves about that. Two things that I want to say to you, and then hopefully we'll have Dr. Grampiche talk more about it next week. But one is ask whatever services you have. Is there any possibility of having services over the break? I know it sounds crazy, but I know people that have gotten speech and OT from the school over the break. I know they have, so it's not impossible. You might get a no, but you know what? Ask. And I know for sure that ABA companies, if you are adamant and tell them, now is the perfect time. If you want services over the holiday break that happens at Christmas time at the end of the year, ask them now. Can I make up some of the hours that we missed when my kid had the flu in September? Use those hours. Tell them I'd like more services, not less. So take advantage of that. But then also, if that's not possible, then there's a whole bunch of things. I did a blog years ago about 101 things that you can do with your kids at home when we all went to lockdown. And I'll make sure that we repost that again. But it is an opportunity to learn how to play with your child. And I think that scares a lot of us, right? I remember being scared about that, but when you figure it out, because if you can play with your child, you can teach your child anything in under the guise of play. I'm telling you, it's a thing. So we'll repost that, but sometimes it's just as simple. I can tell you today, it's as simple as playing make-believe. Like, pick a place that they like to go. Do they like to go to Disneyland, but you can't afford to go to Disneyland? So now you're going to say, let's play Disneyland. The living room is now which land? Is this land of the future? What's the dining room? What's the bathroom? And what role are you playing to the child? And if your child doesn't understand role playing, you take on a role and you be the helper that puts them in the ride, and the ride is the laundry basket, and you drag the laundry basket through the living room, and you say, oh, do you see the elephant? Play make-believe. It's good for your child. But you can play, we used to play beauty parlor. We used to play school. We used to play restaurant. We used to play Trader Joe's, where the kitchen was Trader Joe's, and we would shop, and then, he would take a little pretend scanner and scan and check me out and put things in the bag. You can play whatever you want, and that's good for your child, and it's good for you, and it's easy enough to do. We all know how to play make-believe. It's just sometimes making the leap and going, okay, wait a second. Can my kitchen be Trader Joe's? It can. It can. And sometimes our kids, they're like, what? The kitchen's not Trader Joe's. But then if you play make-believe and go, oh, and and you can do anything. We talk about how you can take the phone, and the phone can be the beep, beep, beep scanning, or you can just pretend and mime it and go, beep, I'm scanning it, and putting pretend groceries in a pretend bag. Or it can be a real bag with the groceries that are in your cabinet. But have some fun with it. All right, we're out of time. See you next week. I hope that we're able to have Dr. Grampiche, and she'll share things with you about what to do when your services aren't there during the holidays. It's a hard time sending you a hug. All right. In fact, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much. See you next time.